Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to discuss how to ace an internal interview. As you know, my format pretty much goes with I am going to read to you an article and then we are going to offer comments and feedback to what the author has stated. So it starts with how to ace an internal interview. So you have been given the opportunity to interview for an internal role. There are some key things that can help you to succeed. An internal role is when you go for a job at an organization you've already working for. And while the aim is for both internal and external interviews is to find the right person for a vacant position, there are differences in how the interview may unfold. Understanding the differences between an internal and external interview from an employer's perspective will give you the best chance of landing the role you want. How to prepare for an internal interview. It's important to remember that your interview is just that, an interview. It's not an informal conversation, but an opportunity for your employer to make sure you have the competencies and that you're the right fit for the role. Our advice to team members is to use the opportunity to learn more about how they are perceived and areas for development, and to prepare fully for the interview process, says Jodette Clearly, the Chief People Officer of Online Trade Marketplace H Pages. There are 5 key elements to acing your internal interview. Number 1, act like an external candidate. At High Pages, existing team members are asked to provide a cover letter and update their resume when applying for a new position. It's important to take the process seriously, says Clearly. Internal applicants need to participate fully alongside external applicants, such as if there is a role play or a presentation as part of the interview process. It is also important to hit the right tone. You may know the people interviewing you, but you still need to be professional throughout the interview and dress appropriately. I absolutely agree with this. I definitely don't believe in taking advantage or thinking that you have an advantage because you already are working within the company. You should always act like an external candidate. I absolutely agree with this tip for the position that I did acquire, the one that I did interview for. Well, there's 2 I interviewed for. One I got and one I didn't. But for the one that I did, well, for both of them, both times when I've applied for a position within the company where I'm currently working, I definitely did treat it as if I was an external candidate, being very respectful, very professional, still showcasing my talents, bringing up things that I had done for the company and maybe other things I had not mentioned in my initial interview. As I mentioned, for the last position that I applied for, I had actually added to my resume, including all the information that I didn't normally have on there because I was going for a much higher position. So although they were familiar with my work as well as my work ethic and also with some of my accomplishments that I'd already done for the company, I still did take the opportunity to present myself like an external candidate. So I definitely agree with this tip. Tip number 2. Use your knowledge to your advantage. While having inside knowledge about the organization, its values, and the way it operates is undoubtedly an advantage, it's still crucial to do your homework. Ensure you are familiar with the company's current vision and mission and goals for the future. If the new job is in a different team, ensure you familiarize yourself with their current projects and workload. You can set yourself apart from other candidates by talking about and emphasizing your organization-specific experience, knowledge, contacts, and skills when answering interview questions. If you have insight into the challenges or opportunities that relate to the role, make sure you go in with some thinking or ideas about how these in case they come up. Absolutely agree with this tip. I do know of other people exercising this practice. The positions that I have applied for I wasn't familiar with what they actually were doing. So my actual follow-up questions were more so geared toward trying to understand what the daily practices looked like for that particular position. So I do agree that if you have insight about it, you definitely want to mention that. And if you don't, definitely set your questions to be centered around you being very interested in learning what your day-to-day will look like in that position in comparison to what you are currently doing. And number 3, ask questions. So let's see what the author says. Be curious about the new role and look at the interview as a fresh opportunity, one where you can ask questions about the position, the potential challenges, and the performance expectations. Your knowledge of the company and different aspects of the business can come in useful here. It's a great way to show what you understand and the value you could bring to the position. But equally, don't let your eagerness to share what you know prevent you from understanding what the hiring manager is looking for. So as I stated, for the position that I applied for, I didn't go in with a conversation as if I understood the position. Instead, a lot of my questions were centered around what the position actually entailed and what was required. So I do think that's a great way to kind of extend your interview time, because I know sometimes it's a little bit hard to find interview questions, which I might actually create a video about that next. What are good questions to ask during an interview? But yes, you definitely want to have questions set up. I would say at least 3 in mind. 3 is kind of my number, but definitely 3 to 4 questions kind of. And then I would say have 3 already set in your mind, and then as you're in the conversation, based on how that interview is going, you can kind of like feed off of the responses that you're getting from the interviewer in order to add more questions. So definitely ask questions during the interview. Even though you are an internal candidate, do not rely on what you already know. It's also very important to ask questions because some of the information you may know, if you per se got it from watching things and or knowing other peers that are coworkers and colleagues that are already served in that position, a lot of it might be hearsay, and asking those questions would be a great way to, like I said, understand what the hiring manager is looking for. If there's something missing or something, the reason why they're filling in the position. Yes, it might be for a vacancy, but the hiring manager may be using that vacancy as an opportunity to pursue a different direction with the company. So you definitely want to show that just because you're internal does not mean you're kind of set in the company way, and that you're kind of flexible and willing to provide whatever the company is looking for. So definitely a great tip as far as asking questions. Tip number 4, be prepared to challenge preconceived ideas. I love when I think the articles are great when my kind of conversation flows into it. So great connection. All right. So internal candidates don't have the same advantage as external candidates because employers often think they know internal employees well. Cleary suggests that if there are certain responsibilities in the new role that you don't have experience with, be prepared to challenge or reshape the interview's opinion. You can say things like, I haven't had direct experience with that. However, I'd like to tell you about how I would approach that situation to pivot towards something positive, she says. I definitely agree with that. As I just mentioned, you never know, even though you might think you know who's interviewing you, especially with work from home, because you can't see people's facial expressions often. I mean, even though during interviews, they're typically on camera, but you don't always know the impression that, the hiring manager or the interviewer has of you, right? So you want to be mindful, of that, and just put yourself in a position, like they said, pivot towards something positive. Not saying that they're thinking anything negative of you, because of course they're giving you the opportunity to interview, right? So you're definitely doing something right in that way. But you also want to, as she mentioned, which is perfect, you want to showcase that that you're open, you're flexible, you are up for the challenge. Anything that they need, you are there to provide, regardless of what impression they might have of you, right? So you want to reshape the interviewer's opinion. Definitely agree with that tip. Okay, and tip number 5, share your accomplishments. An internal interview is an opportunity to highlight your skills and achievements. As an existing member of staff, you might be inclined to assume a hiring manager knows what you've achieved, but this isn't always the case. Be sure to remind the interviewers of the value you bring to the organization. Emphasize any particular accomplishments and how they have benefited the company, says Cleary. I definitely agree with that. I'm always an advocate. I think every single video is going to talk to you about how I'm definitely an advocate of talking yourself up and definitely keeping track of keeping record, of accomplishments that you have had. I've also mentioned I'm not very good at that, but I do have a lot of members, team members, colleagues, peers, former acquaintances that are my echoes for the work that I have done, in addition to my resume and XYZ, blah, 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 everything that's written about me. But you definitely want to always share your accomplishments. Let them know. You, like I said, never take for granted or never look at it as an advantage that they know you, right? Because there's always going to be someone in the room that is not directly familiar with your work. So you do want to be prepared and ready to share your accomplishments and discuss how that has helped the overall team, even the overall organization. All right. So to conclude, what to be aware of before your internal interview. It may not be appropriate to talk to your colleagues about the new role and gather information that may not be in the job description, especially given you may be competing with workmates for the role. We advise internal applicants to act professionally throughout. They should understand that it is not appropriate to discuss other team members' suitability for the role, but to focus on their own accomplishments, says Cleary. According to Cleary, internal candidates are a great resource to a company as they are already familiar with the ethos, culture, and operations of the organization. Whenever possible, our preference is to promote or provide a new opportunity to an existing team member rather than hire from the outside, she says. Absolutely, I agree with that. To go back to the original point, I didn't realize it was going to separate. The original point of not discussing it with your coworkers, I absolutely agree. Anytime that I have applied for a position, I have not told anyone that I am interviewing or applying. I think that's a good practice, more so relating to the evil eye and not really knowing always who is your a friend or foe, right? And especially in the work from home sector, you can't see faces. And you are limited on how often you're interacting with people. I love about work from home, I have the opportunity to filter myself. So yes, I have not ever told anyone when I'm applying for a position, and definitely I continue to act professional. Also, with the last position I applied for, it was given to someone else. I never even shared that I had. I'm pretty sure at some point she learned that I had applied for it from anyone else, but whole nother subject. But I definitely never shared that information because it doesn't matter. They picked the right candidate. They picked the best candidate for the position at that time. And it's always good to stay professional. And again, I always say, you're working in your house and your house is your peace place. So don't bring unnecessary negative energy into your home. You're happy working from home. You're happy with the company you're working for. So don't don't ruin that for yourself, because you'd simply be doing it to yourself for yourself. So keep that in mind. But I did enjoy this article on how to ace an internal interview. I absolutely 100% agree with the tips that the author gave, and I certainly hope that you enjoyed it as well. Hello, my name is Kendra, the official business renovator. Welcome to my page. I am so happy to have you here today. And I hope that you enjoy. Of course, feel free to like, share, or comment on the video, as well as follow to get notifications for when I upload any new information. And also the link is in the bio, where you can find all of the products that I would like to share with you on how to advance in your career. Some of you may know, and if you're new to my page, you do not know that I did recently release a book called The Great Promotion, where I discuss how I was promoted 4 times in 6 months and received a bonus while working from home. And so my name is Kendra, the official business renovator. Welcome.